This is Rif on Beitza Chaf Daled. And specifically we're going to start with Chaf Daled Amid Beis. Amar of Papa, Hilchasan Nachri Shevi Daron B'Yom Tov. Papa says that the halacha is, if a non-Jew brings a gift on Yom Tov, the Yisrael, to an Israelite, to a Jew, Im Yesh Me'osu Hamin B'Mechubar Asur. If that species is available, attached to the ground in that area, so it's forbidden in case it happened to have been detached by this non-Jew on Yom Tov, even though a non-Jew is entirely allowed to detach things, since a Jew couldn't, so it can't really be detached on his account, and so that's why we say it's forbidden. La'erev, and that night, in the evening, after Yom Tov Nami Asurin, it's still going to be forbidden. B'chdeshi Asu, the amount of time it would take to make. V'im ein me'osu hamin b'mechubar b'soch hatchum. If that particular species is not available attached, v'im ein me'osu hamin b'mechubar, so if it's not available of that species attached, so then b'soch hatchum mutarim. If it was brought from within the tchum, Shabbos and tchum Yom Tov is permitted, and michutz l'tchum asurim, but from outside of the tchum, it's forbidden, because even though you can assume that it wasn't detached on Yom Tov, but still, since a Jew wasn't allowed to bring it from outside of tchum into the tchum Shabbos, similarly, if a non-Jew does it on the Jew's behalf, so it would similarly be forbidden. V'haba b'shvil Yisrael zeh. But if something was brought for this specific Jew from outside of the tchum, mutter l'Yisrael acher, is permitted for a different Jew to benefit from it, to take it. V'ata amrina yesh me'osu hamin b'mechubar asur, and this is that we say that if from that species is available attached, it's forbidden. Lo mibai b'achila daser. You don't even need to say that. In terms of eating it, it's forbidden. But even to move it is also forbidden. Because since it's not fit for eating, because it's aser, it's muksahu. It's muksa, and therefore you can't move it. Related to this, we're going to now digress to Erevin, Daf Lamed Tes Amid Beis, into Daf Mem Amid Aleph. Garsinan b'Perek B'chol Ma'arvin. We learn in Perek B'chol Ma'arvin in Erevin. Hahu bar Tovia the Asai l'Beireish Gelusha. There was a certain gazelle which came to the house of the Reish Gelusa, the exilage. The Istsid B'Yom Tov, that it was captured, presumably by non-Jews, on Yom Tov, Rishon, on the first day of Yom Tov. Vishtachet b'Yom Tov Sheni, and it was slaughtered on the second day of Yom Tov. And this is Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golia, so one of those days is doubtful. But on the other hand, you could have trapped it theoretically on the second day of Yom Tov. So Rav Nachman and Rav Chisda achal, both of them ate. Rav Sheshes lo achil, but Rav Sheshes didn't eat. The Kasaver, because Rav Sheshes held that Kedusha Achasein, they have a single sanctity, the 2 days of Yom Tov, even though it's Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galias. The Kaimalan Rav Nachman and Rav Chisda, we hold like the two. And anyway, Rav Chisda Nami Kahadirvei, Rav Sheshes Nami Kahadirvei, Rav Sheshes also, he retracted. So it's really unanimous, everybody says you could eat it. V'amrina Nami, and we also say, this is on Erevin, Daf Mem Amid Aleph, Hahi Lifta, Dasul Mechoza. There was a certain crop of turnip that was brought that came to Mechoza, presumably on Yom Tov. Chazi Rava de Michmisha. Rava saw that it was withered. So Amar, so Rava said, Hai vadei me'esmo akra. This was certainly uprooted yesterday, so it wasn't detached today. Hai vadei me'esmo akra. This was certainly uprooted yesterday. My amras michutz l'tchum asay. Are we going to say that it's problematic because it came from outside of Tchum Shabbos, Tchum Yom Tov? Habab b'shvil Yisrael zeh, but if something was brought for a specific Jew, for a specific Israelite, mutter l'Yisrael acher, it's permitted for another Israelite. B'chol shekein ha, and certainly this, the Adaita de Nachrim, it was brought, this turnip crop was brought to sell to Gentiles, non-Jews, so it would certainly be permitted for Yisrael. So Asa Shara Luhu Rava, Mizban Mineh. So Rava permitted them to purchase it. Kevin de Chazai Dekai Mafshi Umaisu, Asu Luhu. Once he saw that they were bringing them in large quantities, presumably because they saw that there was this demand, so he prohibited them. He prohibited these turnips because then it was going to be brought Bishvil Yisrael. Continuing, Hanhu B'nei Gnana, there were certain gardeners. The Gazuluhu Nachre Asa Biyoma Tova, for whom Gentiles cut myrtles on Yom Tov. Now there's slight changes in Girsa here because the Rif says Nachri, that the Gentiles cut it, but that doesn't say that explicitly in our Gemara. And secondly, the Chavas Yair kind of amends this a little bit, and he changes B'Yom Tova to be the second day of Yom Tov. In other words, Yom Tov Sheni, which is Yom Tov Sheni Shel Golias. L'Ursa, when night fell, Shara Luhu Ravina, L'Aruche, Ravina permitted them to smell of it immediately when night fell. In other words, it was after it was after Yom Tov. See, because in general you would have to wait enough time in order to make it. So here he permitted them to smell it immediately. And it sounds right that what the Chavas Yair is saying, even if it doesn't explicitly say that it's the second day of Yom Tov. Ravina is in Bavel, and so if we're talking about Motzei Yom Tov, it has to be Motzei Yom Tov Sheni. Although you could make an argument the other way, that once going from Yom Tov Rishon to Yom Tov Sheni, so it would also be permitted. But so it's not so clear what Chavas Yair means here. But anyway, so Ravina permitted them to smell of it immediately. Asu v'shaylu Rava, and Rava said, they went and asked Rava, and Amar Lahu, he said to the people who asked him, Be'inan b'chdei sheyasu, we need to wait enough time for them to be made.